Dr. Eggman has been through a lot, defeat after defeat, failure after failure, loss after loss. It seems that no matter how many machines he builds or how many plans he makes, the Blue Hedgehog always brings it to a catastrophic end. Of course, it would be false to deny Eggman had ever scored a win, but if we're being truthful, the vast majority of his exploits have ended in disaster. But surely a man of his scientific genius could have done something to prevent this terrible losing streak. And that's what got me thinking. What if Eggman was serious about his wins? Because the truth of the matter is, he is the boss of a video game. It's his destiny to lose so that the player can win. But if we remove that meta-narrative from the equation, and imagine this is reality, there is no game, and Eggman is genuine about trying to come out as the world dictator, how much damage could he really do? Now for this thought experiment, we need to set some ground rules. Dr. Eggman is going to be much as you remember him. Scientific genius, builds machines, wants to conquer the world. However, what's going to be different is he's going to go in for the kill. And I mean as early as when he first shows up on the scene in Sonic 1. His serious and willing to harm has fluctuated over the years. This Dr. Eggman is just going straight for the throat. He's not going to let anything get in his way. However, Sonic is going to get some changes as well, because this isn't the first person in the universe to attempt such a question, I know. But what a lot of people end up falling into is, whilst Eggman gets liberated from the shackles of his boss design from a game perspective, people tend not to do the same for Sonic, so you've got this more realistic behaving Eggman going against a Sonic that acts as if it's mindless, being controlled by a player with no real sense of proper preservation, and getting stomped by simple level hazards. Because we could just make a Kaizo level filled with spike traps and lava pits and everything, and if we treat Sonic still as the video game identity, he might lose to that, because if you played a game like that, you would lose. But if we're going to let Eggman think outside the box, then we should let Sonic do the same too. And Sonic, with his skill and speed alone, wouldn't fall for certain traps that the players would unfortunately fall into. So that's what we're working with. Originally, I was going to look through the lens of a more serious Eggman starting from Sonic 1 and going through the classics, but as I was doing this, I realised they wouldn't really change too much. Keep in mind, in Sonic 1, Dr. Eggman didn't even know who Sonic was, and definitely didn't account for him being there. So everything that happened in Sonic 1 would probably go the same way, because Eggman was caught off guard by a really quick, really dangerous Blue Hedgehog. And in CD, he did try to account for Sonic with the Metal Sonic copy, and it didn't work. And then with Sonic 2, I even imagined if he got some of the emeralds before Sonic did and used them to power his machines, but we've seen in other games that Sonic can beat a Chaos Emerald powered foe, so once again he would still lose. And in Sonic 3, Eggman was already serious. He burned down Angel Island, he tricked its Guardian to fight Sonic, he used this to learn more about the Master Emerald and steal it, he rebuilt the Death Egg machine, and it still failed for him. He even built the Mecha Sonic that could go super, and it was defeated by Knuckles. So he was serious in Sonic 3, and everything before that game basically goes the same way. So the classics would actually be unchanged. As a result, we're going to start instead with Sonic Adventure's story. Of course, he was researching Chaos's legend with the stone tablets and rumours of the Echidna civilization's Kalamic ending. But we're going to make a couple changes. We see he's got his E-series, his elite force of machine enforcers, but in the game, he lets his temperamental ego get the better of him and waste some of their potential, because when they fail to bring him the tailed frog, he scraps all of them that are not Gamma. Now, he does repurpose all of the E-series he scraps, but some of them really come off more as an insult, like being given cleanup duty when you fail at work. The only one that really got enhanced was Beta, with his new Mark II form. The rest were just put on menial sentry duties more than anything else. But we see from Gamma's own capabilities that that's a huge waste. If Eggman was serious, he would have rebuilt all of the E-series, except maybe Gamma because he was already doing well, who knows. But at the very least, everybody else should just become Mark II like Beta did. Flat out. They've got a deflector, they've got missiles, they can move very fast, they can shoot giant explosions, all around efficient machines. If he just did that to all the others, Gamma or not, that would be a lot harder for the heroes to deal with. Unfortunately for our echidna friend, things aren't going to go well for him in this alternate history. Dr. Eggman shows up on Angel Island and busts the Emerald open to free Chaos, and to Cole, as always. But then, Knuckles is right there in the targeting reticle of the egg carrier. What do you think a serious Eggman's going to do in this scenario? Leave, like he did in the normal one, or blow Knuckles to pieces? That's right, in this version of events, I'm afraid to say it, Knuckles is not living past the past Sonic Adventures intro. He is gone, dead, a red stain on the floor. Eggman blows him up, Angel Island falls, Chaos is freed. From here, Eggman will give Chaos Zero a test run against the police of Station Square like last time, because that's the point, he was seeing how strong really is Chaos. So he wouldn't really interfere at all, and he would still laugh at Sonic as he stands in the rain, as we remember. However, next up on his plan is to get Chaos Emeralds to feed Chaos. In the game, Sonic and Tails are trying to race him to stop him from getting all of them, but ultimately he does, partially thanks to manipulating Knuckles again. But this time, Knuckles is dead, so how does this go differently? Well, he'll still steal Tails' Chaos Emerald and feed it to Chaos to show his transformation, and he is still going to run away, because he already had a great plan in the original. Let Sonic and Tails do the hard work of finding them and steal them later. He's got no reason to do something different here either. So that will continue, but the problem is he can no longer trick Knuckles into going after Sonic and Tails for their emeralds, because Knuckles is dead. So instead, he's just going to have to take them the hard way. And by that, I mean he will ambush Sonic and Tails with all of his Mark II E-series, and they'll beat him up, making him drop the emeralds the same way his clash with Knuckles did in the original, thus allowing Eggman to take them and feed them the Chaos, transforming it into Chaos 4 once again. So by this point, Knuckles not being around has been completely negated, because Chaos 4 has been achieved, and that was the last time Knuckles messed with Sonic before he realised what was going on. Big the Cat, Froggy, and their interactions with Chaos' tail remain unchanged. Gamma is obviously the one to still find the tailed frog, and this is all before Eggman rebuilds the other E-series anyway, so that plays out completely the same. Amy Rose gets captured by Zero, brought to the egg carrier as last time, and held in the prison cell, and Gamma will once again take the bird, have his moment, free Amy, and return to the deck to fight Sonic once he and Tails have arrived. Amy's going to run out to get them to stop fighting, meanwhile Eggman's going to run off to try and find Chaos and feed it all the emeralds and all that stuff, as we remember. But once the egg carrier goes down and everyone flees, we see Eggman at his lowest point in a while, and he's intent on nuking Station Square, which was already pretty serious before. You can't get much more serious than that. But Tails will beat him, and then when Eggman continues to be serious and threatens to turn Tails into mincemeat, he will still lose, because he lost in the game originally. So none of that changes, but what does change is that because Knuckles is dead, Angel Island isn't sent back into the sky, because no one's been collecting the Master Emerald pieces, and that means no one gathered all the Chaos Emeralds by the altar. However, that doesn't actually matter, because since Knuckles wasn't around, Chaos 6 never got defeated. In the game, Sonic defeats him, and he reforms, and Knuckles has to finish him for good. But Knuckles isn't here, so Chaos 6 is on the crashed egg carrier with all 6 Chaos Emeralds. The last one, of course, is still in the Tornado too, but as we saw in the last story, Chaos gets enough of all of this nonsense and just starts teleporting himself with water pillars wherever he wants to go, which he still did in the original game to get that last emerald, so he can do it here too. which means the last story would actually still take place even without Knuckles. Tikal would still talk to Sonic and the other heroes. Gamma is an interesting one because he dies fighting Beta Mark II. I'm not sure if it will go so well for him this time because Eggman would have had all of the E-series upgraded. But it's hard to say. Gamma would either get worn down after fighting each and every Mark II robot and die somewhere along the lines, or you could say because he beat Beta, he would be able to beat them all. But he barely won against Beta in that cutscene after the fact, so that's a bit of a stretch. Gamma might unfortunately die before he kills off all the E-series, which for one means that the birdies won't all be free. More importantly, it means Eggman will still have a couple of them for the last story. Speaking of which, let's lay that out. So, Sonic, Tails, and Amy are all still there. Big the Cat is still there. Gamma, one way or another, is dead. He's not coming in, and the bird inside of him probably isn't around either, because Amy wouldn't have been there. Knuckles is dead, so he's not there either. But they'll still get all the Chaos Emeralds like they did in the normal game. Eggman, on the other hand, has the Egg Carrier 2, and he's got some amount of Mark II E-series. It's hard to say because it depends on when Gamma fails, but he's got some. Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, who knows. And then Perfect Chaos is completely the same. He is unaffected by the fact that Knuckles is dead. But, of course, the Mark II E-series won't have any impact on Perfect Chaos. It will still Hyper Beam the Egg Carrier 2, blowing it up, all the robots inside of it, and sending Eggman blasting away. So that actually amounts to nothing different. And that means that Super Sonic will still be able to beat up Chaos and then not want to kill him and purify his heart, and Tikal will take him to Chow Heaven or whatever. And that means Adventure 1, largely the same. Sonic Adventure 2, next on the chopping block. This is an interesting one. Eggman was plenty serious in Sonic Adventure 2 to begin with. The only difference, really, is that the Master Emerald wasn't rebuilt and Knuckles isn't alive. But I actually don't think this is going to change a whole lot. So, Eggman's first opportunity to be different, if we say he's more serious, would be when Tails comes across him and Amy at the prison island. Now, if we were being edgy, we could say Eggman would fire the Vulcan cannon at Amy and blow her to bits. But here's the thing, multiple times having Amy as a hostage has been beneficial to Eggman, so I don't think he would just shoot Amy out the blue. Like, what's she going to do to him anyway? He clearly doesn't think much of her in the way of a threat. That would be pointless. However, maybe he wouldn't be chasing her to the edge of the ocean like we find him in the game. I don't even know what his objective was. Maybe he was going to kidnap her right then and there, who knows. You could argue it would play out the same way, or you could argue that Eggman would just ignore Amy at this point in time, because he's got bigger plans in motion, so they just wouldn't be held up at all. I can't really say for sure. Either way, I think that part of the game will progress as normal. The only exception would be perhaps if Tails does land, and then Eggman kills him. But the thing is, the game doesn't tell you who would win, because sometimes you're playing Team Dark, sometimes you're playing Team Hero. The cutscene calls it a draw. So I'm not going to definitively say who would win that fight, because the game doesn't either. And as I've already said, Eggman is definitely serious in Adventure 2. So I'm going to say it plays out the same way, in that no one dies and everyone moves on. Eggman's already gotten Shadow out, and they've already got their plan about Space Colony Arc, and eventually they'll go and blow up the moon to demonstrate they're serious. Rouge will still be an agent for the president, sneaking into his team. But since Knuckles isn't around, Sonic's crew won't have anyone informing them of where Eggman's pyramid base is. Which means they might not even get into space to stop Eggman. Which is perhaps a beneficial feature, because Eggman needs Tails' Chaos Emerald in order to fully charge Space Colony Arc. So yeah, he can threaten the president with the Eclipse Cannon, but Shadow's plan of putting all 7 in and then blowing up the Earth won't happen, and Eggman is unlikely to just blow up the Earth when he's winning. Sonic will know about Eggman's location by the time the president has his call and Tails intercepts it. Maybe he would learn how to get the Space Colony Arc that way. I don't know. They probably won't be in time to steal Eggman's shuttle though, because Knuckles was the one that got them in there and found all the keys inside, blah blah blah. So maybe the government will supply Sonic's crew with a spaceship. Maybe Tails has one somewhere. I don't know. This is where it becomes hard to call. If Sonic Team can get the space, I guess this story continues. If they can't, Eggman just threatens the president with the Eclipse Cannon, and he has to obey, and Shadow maybe will betray Eggman to shoot the Eclipse Cannon at Earth anyway, which could be interesting, but that's a whole different what if right there. So we won't explore that possibility. So yeah, we're going to have to just assume Sonic somehow gets into space, whether it's Tails or the government, who knows. But they get into space, everything goes down as you remember it. Sonic will use Chaos Control, Tails will give Eggman the last emerald he needs, blah blah blah, last story takes place. Now, in the game, Knuckles was needed to hit one of the switches, but I guess Rouge can just do 2 missions instead of 1. And the problem is, without the Master Emerald or Knuckles, they can't turn the Chaos Emeralds off. But at the same time, I actually think it's not a problem, because even though they turn the Emeralds off in the game, the Bio-Lizard just warps itself onto Space Colony Arc and pulls it down anyway, as if nothing ever happened. So all that would be different is that the Bio-Lizard doesn't need to do that, and the colony is still crashing to Earth. But all this would mean is Super Sonic and Super Shadow would obliterate the Bio-Lizard in the chamber, go outside, and then use Chaos Control anyway. So it pretty much plays out the same way, even without Knuckles. Man, Knuckles is really getting the bad end of the stick here. He's gone and the world moves on without him. As for Sonic Heroes, I'm aware that it's not Eggman and it's actually Neo Metal Sonic, but we'll just treat Neo Metal Sonic as Eggman because he's pretending to be so. How is it different? Well, Neo's plan was to get the heroes all the way to Rail Canyon so that he could copy their bio data for his ultimate transformation down the line. So, for the first half of the game, nothing's going to change, because he still needs everyone to get there. Of course, Team Chaotix do nothing for him, but they're being hired by the actual Eggman, so that's whatever. Once he does copy the biodata, though, that's where things change. In Sonic 3 and Knuckles, we see that the Egg Robos are capable of piloting boss mechs, and Mecha Sonic is also capable of doing that. So, Neo Metal Sonic has no reason not to make multiple Egg Hawk bosses and put egg pawns inside the pilot seats and then send them after the heroes in Rail Canyon to dive bomb and obliterate them until they're all defeated. You might be wondering how he has the resources to build that many Egg Hawks, but look at the Egg Fleet. If the Egg Fleet was able to be built, then a couple more Egg Hawks were also able to be constructed, and they will just harass the heroes until they're defeated. Meanwhile, he still has all the data he needs to access his final transformation, because he cloned Team Sonic, he copied Shadow's data, he copied Chocola Chow's data, and Froggy's data. There's nothing else he needs. It's a stomp. The heroes are all dead, and Metal Overlord can conquer the world. Abrupt ending, I know, but truthfully, that's the way it goes. There isn't really another way this can turn out. Unless somehow the heroes can defeat many Egg Hawks and then continue on their journey. If they can't do that, I don't see how they would stop Metal Sonic. He doesn't need any of them after the Grand Canyon. He's already got what he needs out of the heroes. He can go Metal Madness whenever he wants from that point onwards, and he's still got the Egg Fleet. They're doomed. They are doomed. It's over. Eggman is going to be locked up in prison forever, and that is the end of that. But just for fun's sake, if we go past Sonic Heroes, since technically it's not Eggman, and look at Shadow the Hedgehog, there's another interesting thing that the Doctor could be doing. We see he has his army of Shadow androids. They can spin attack, homing attack, they're somewhat durable, they're quick, and instead of using Chaos Spear, they throw missiles out of their hands. Overall, they're quite useful and powerful, but for some reason, after Shadow the Hedgehog, Dr. Eggman flat out stops using the Shadow androids. Why? They're a good asset. What if he continued to use them in games like Sonic Unleashed, where his forces are supplemented with Shadow androids? Sure, Sonic will probably be able to destroy them anyway, but it will make Eggman overall a tougher foe to face. Also, in Sonic Unleashed, instead of watching Sonic fall to the earth as a werehog, he would just kill him. When he drained Supersonic's power, he would just kill Sonic. So now, Dark Gaia gets unleashed, and Eggman has no Blue Nuisance in his way, which would once again end the series. So it seems after we get to the hero's point in the timeline, a serious Eggman just keeps on winning, and there's no real way around it. And as one more bonus, talking about a serious Eggman for Sonic 06, technically we already saw that of alternate timeline, because it's when he successfully keeps Princess Elise, but then the egg carrier has a malfunction, it blows up, Iblis gets released, and Silver's future takes place. So he dies in that, but hey, so does everybody else. And that brings us to the end of this little thought experiment. What if Eggman was serious? A surprising amount of things wouldn't change, or they would work out the same way in the long run, until we get the heroes, where basically back to back, it would turn out that the villains win, or the world gets completely destroyed. Still, thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and to see you next time. This is the Mighty Emperor, signing off.